In 1998, a single video game shattered expectations, sold over 6 million copies worldwide.
Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid.
And redefined how stories are told on a console. But how did a stealth-based infiltration mission set on a remote Alaskan island become one of the most influential cinematic experiences in gaming history? Stay with us as we reveal how Metal Gear Solid forever changed not only video games, but the entire landscape of entertainment. We'll dig deep into its cryptic lore, groundbreaking mechanics, and the creative genius behind it all, answering one burning question. Did Hideo Kojima's masterpiece truly pave the way for modern interactive storytelling? The truth might surprise you. Released in 1998 for the original PlayStation, Metal Gear Solid was far more than just another game on the shelf. It was a technical and creative marvel that fused stealth mechanics with Hollywood-style cinematics, complete with full voice acting, philosophical themes, and plot twists that left players stunned.
Hey, what happened?
At a time when many titles focused on run-and-gun action, Metal Gear Solid dared to make not being seen the central gameplay hook. Its cinematics and extensive cutscenes rivaled the blockbusters of the day, enough to attract not just gamers, but pop culture enthusiasts intrigued by this new form of digital storytelling. By the time the credits rolled, many of us were left pondering, can a video game be a serious vehicle for storytelling on par with film or television? This documentary will show you exactly how Metal Gear Solid answered that question, decades before the mainstream industry caught up. To truly appreciate how Metal Gear Solid achieved its legendary status, we need to step into the mind of its creator. Hideo Kojima was no ordinary game director. He was a film buff who dreamed of placing gamers in the heart of a cinematic experience. He didn't just want a stealth action title, he wanted a full-blown, interactive thriller that could stand alongside the Hollywood blockbusters he admired. In doing so, Kojima and Konami ventured into uncharted territory, shattering conventions of what console gaming could look, feel, and sound like.
Looks like they were cut by some type of blade.
One of the game's defining accomplishments was its ability to make players feel the underlying tension, often associated with classic spy films, while still handing them the controller. The camera would pan just so, revealing a narrow hallway teeming with guards, forcing you to hold your breath along with Snake. Lighting and sound design were meticulously engineered. When your footsteps echoed on a metal grate, you genuinely felt the risk of being discovered. This wasn't just stealth gaming, it was cinematic tension brought to life. In today's era, where high-budget streaming series dominate, you might wonder why Metal Gear Solid's cinematic ambitions were so groundbreaking. But rewind to 1998, streaming didn't exist, and most console games had constraints that made lengthy cutscenes risky. Disk capacity was limited, and gamers weren't accustomed to extended movie-like sequences in the middle of their gameplay. Yet Kojima and his team doubled down on immersing you in a thriller on a disc, complete with dramatic revelations, expertly choreographed action sequences, and cinematic camera work that blurred the lines between video game and feature film.
Who's that? You don't like girls?
No cinematic experience is complete without top-tier performances. While many games of the period still relied on basic voiceover or even text boxes, Metal Gear Solid boasted a cast who approached their roles as though they were starring in a Hollywood production. David Hayter, the voice behind Solid Snake, infused the character with a gravelly sense of weariness and grit that became iconic.
Hear me straining a lot more, trying to push that voice through. But I got to a place where I learned how to just drop it down to where my vocal cords would start to rumble on their own. And I can pretty much do this all day. I'm not going to.
The attention to voice direction and cinematic sound design ensured every line landed with the weight of a carefully scripted drama. The game's extended codec calls, essentially radio transmissions between characters, function like dramatic interludes, revealing backstory and emotional stakes rarely seen in action games at the time.
Got her. Damn. Snake, the government has decided not to give in to their demands. We're trying to buy some more time.
Come on, Colonel. Why don't you stop playing dumb? I'm sorry about Meryl, but I want the lies to end now.
This pursuit of film-level quality was unprecedented. Konami was betting big. Metal Gear Solid had to succeed commercially to justify its lavish production values. For perspective, most games back then didn't rely on large voice casts, multi-minute cutscenes, or orchestral scores. If MGS had flopped, it might have dissuaded other studios from investing in cinematic storytelling for years to come. But the gamble paid off. Critics hailed the game's narrative ambition, while fans were enthralled by the game's movie-like quality. In fact, many players recall Metal Gear Solid as their first taste of an interactive story that rivaled blockbuster films, an experience they still talk about decades later. Looking back, the influence of Metal Gear Solid is clear. It paved the way for story-driven titles that now dominate the industry, proving that gamers would eagerly embrace complex narratives, emotional depth, and high production values. In a sense, Kojima's cinematic gamble wasn't just about producing one groundbreaking game, it was about forging a new path for interactive media as a whole. And so, with a cinematic blueprint in place, Metal Gear Solid was poised to become more than a mere stealth game. It was ready to revolutionize how players experience narrative on a console. But the story doesn't end there.
Still okay? Want me to go on? Can you take one more?
At the heart of Metal Gear Solid is a single figure whose presence looms larger than any super soldier you've seen before. Solid Snake. A man of few words and relentless focus, Snake has been pulled from a quiet, isolated life to confront a crisis on a remote Alaskan island. A nuclear threat that no one else can handle. Beneath his steely exterior and razor-sharp training, there's a deeper struggle unfolding, questions about identity, duty, and the secrets that could tear him apart.
Naomi, Liquid died from Fox died too. What about me? When am I gonna go?
That's up to you.
What do you mean?
Everybody dies when their time is up.
Yeah, so when's mine up?
It's up to you how you use the time left to you. Live, Snake. That's all I can say to you.
After years of clandestine operations, Snake believed he was finally free from the cycle of warfare. But in 2005, when a now rogue special forces unit called Foxhound takes over a nuclear disposal facility on Shadow Moses Island, the world forces Snake out of retirement. Under Colonel Roy Campbell's urgent request, Snake reluctantly agrees to infiltrate the island. His orders seem clear: rescue hostages and prevent a nuclear catastrophe. Yet Snake has no idea how deeply he's entangled in the events unfolding on this remote, frozen battleground. Shadow Moses isn't just another Black Ops assignment. Rumors point to a terrifying new threat. Metal Gear Rex, a bipedal tank capable of launching a nuclear strike from anywhere on the planet. Foxhound's demands? $1 billion, and the genetic remains of Big Boss, the legendary soldier Snake once faced in battle.
If we nuke a major population center, the game's over. But a nuclear explosion at a test site can still be concealed from the public. Meanwhile, Washington will be worried about the retaliatory strike from China.
That'll probably mean top-secret talks between both countries' leaders.
Of course. And in the process, the President will be forced to divulge the existence of a new and highly destabilizing nuclear weapon to the Chinese. What do you think that will do to the US's reputation? Or the President's?
And with the CTBT, that means that China and India. I see.
Yes. When the other countries hear about this new weapon, they'll all want to contact us. Washington won't be very happy when we start selling their own system to the highest bidders. Yes, the President will break. He will give in to our demands.
Big Boss's DNA and $1 billion.
$1 billion? That money will be used to cure our genome soldiers as well.
Snake slips onto the island, confident in his infiltration skills. But almost immediately, he senses this operation is far bigger than he anticipated. Foxhound's leader, a man calling himself Liquid Snake, seems to know far too much about Solid Snake's past, and to Snake's astonishment, may even share his very DNA. Within the facility's maze-like interior, Snake locates two high-profile hostages, the DARPA chief, Donald Anderson, and the Arms Tech president, Kenneth Baker. Both speak of Rex's catastrophic potential and an override system that could halt its launch. But each man suddenly dies of a mysterious heart attack. Is it coincidence? Sabotage? Snake can't be sure. The deeper he goes, the more it appears that the entire mission is designed around him. Even Colonel Campbell's niece, Meryl Silverburr, stationed at Shadow Moses, reveals unsettling hints that Snake may be a pawn in a larger game. And with every step, the line between rescuer and target blurs. As Snake forges deeper into the facility, he confronts Foxhound's deadly ranks.
No, don't touch it!
C4.
Revolver Ocelot, a sharpshooter and interrogator who tests Snake's reflexes and nearly tears apart his spirit with brutal torture sessions. Psycho Mantis, a psychic who manipulates minds, pushing Snake to question reality itself. Sniper Wolf, a calm yet ruthless marksman whose lethal aim leaves Snake's ally Meryl gravely wounded. Vulcan Raven, a hulking shaman who wields his massive cannon as though guided by spiritual forces. Each encounter isn't merely a boss fight, it's a key to unearthing the facility's hidden truths. Snake learns of a masked presence known as the Ninja, a terrifyingly agile figure who cuts down enemies, and even Ocelot's hand with ease. This masked warrior's identity and his motives only compound the mysteries enveloping Shadow Moses. Amid the chaos, Snake encounters Dr. Hal Otacon Emmerich, Rex's lead developer. Horrified by how his research is being twisted, Otacon joins Snake's cause, revealing that RX is nearly operational. But the real shock comes when Snake uncovers evidence tying his own genetic makeup to the shadowy agenda driving Foxhound's revolt.
I must say, although the boys at the Pentagon are probably saying the same thing.
What the hell are you talking about?
Following orders blindly with no questions asked, you've lost your warrior's pride and become nothing more than a pawn, Snake.
What?
Stopping the nuclear launch, rescuing the hostages, it was all just a diversion.
A diversion?
The Pentagon only needed for you to come into contact with us. That's what killed the Arms Tech president and decoy Octopus.
You don't mean...
That's right. You were sent here to kill us so they could retrieve Metal Gear undamaged, along with the bodies of the genome soldiers. From the beginning, the Pentagon was just using you as a vector to spread Fox dye.
Fox dye? It can't be.
All along, Snake believed he was just following orders to protect national security. Instead, he finds that the men behind this crisis see him as a living weapon, a product of the same experiments that created his adversary, Liquid Snake. Worse still, Snake learns he's infected with a virus called FOXDIE, engineered to kill specific targets upon close contact. The sudden deaths of Anderson and Baker? No accidents.
It looks like the DIA recently developed a new type of assassination weapon.
An assassination weapon?
Snake, have you ever heard of something called Fox dye?
No. Fox dye. Liquid and the others were talking about it.
Yeah. It's some kind of virus that targets specific people. I don't know all the details, but
What are you trying to say?
it's too similar.
What is?
The cause of death. Didn't the Arms Tech president and the DARPA chief, Decoy Octopus, die of something that looked like a heart attack?
Yeah?
Well, apparently Fox Die kills its victims by simulating a heart attack.
Captured and tortured by Ocelot, forced to watch Merrill wounded in action, and burdened by the revelation of his genetically engineered origins, Snake faces physical and mental extremes. The cyborg ninja resurfaces, revealing himself to be Gray Fox, a presumed dead comrade and rival. His presence hints at old debts and the blurred lines between friend and foe. Despite heartbreak and betrayal, Snake's resolve only hardens. Driven by a desperate need to stop RX and to prove he's more than a mere puppet of science, he confronts the monstrous war machine in the facility's bowels. But Liquid Snake awaits with one final twist. He is Snake's twin, created from the remains of the legendary soldier Big Boss. The last showdown sees Snake destroying Rex, aided by Gray Fox's final sacrifice. Liquid chases Snake and Meryl, or Otacon in another outcome, through the island's escape route, only to collapse from the very virus Snake unknowingly carried. With Liquid's death, the nuclear threat is quelled, and Colonel Campbell halts a cover-up airstrike meant to bury the truth. Though Snake leaves Shadow Moses alive, the cost is immense. He has discovered his genetic origin, and that Fox Die still ticks away in his bloodstream. What began as a routine infiltration has upended everything Snake thought he knew about loyalty, identity, and power, reshaping the global balance of power and Snake's destiny in ways neither he nor the world could anticipate.
Are you Saladin?
Wolf, you spared Meryl's life.
She was never my real target. I don't kill for sport.
Rest easy. You'll die as the proud wolf you are.
I finally understand. I wasn't waiting to kill people. I was waiting for someone to kill me. A man like you. You're a hero. Please, set me free.
One of the most compelling hallmarks of Metal Gear Solid lies in its layered storytelling, filled with twists, secrets, and moral ambiguity. This is far more than a simple good versus evil scenario. Each character and plot thread invites us to grapple with the deeper questions at the heart of the Shadow Moses incident. 1. Genetic fate. The game poses a haunting dilemma. Are we bound by the DNA that shapes our abilities and personalities, or can we rise above what biology dictates? Solid Snake and Liquid Snake embody this conflict, each wrestling with a legacy they never chose. 2. Nuclear deterrence. The story explores the idea of peace enforced by the looming threat of annihilation. Is stability truly maintained by fear, or does reliance on nuclear weaponry only breed further mistrust and conflict? 3. War's human cost. Characters like Meryl Silverberg and Dr. Hal Otacon Emmerich showcase the emotional toll of constant warfare. Meryl, a rookie thrust into brutal combat, struggles to hold on to her ideals, while Otacon grapples with guilt over creating a weapon of mass destruction.
No. A nuclear missile on Rex?
So you really didn't know?
No.
This narrative doesn't offer simple answers. Instead, it presents a tapestry of viewpoints, leaving us to question where the lines between heroism and villainy truly lie. When characters like Liquid Snake speak fervently of genetic destiny, or Gray Fox fights with a kind of tragic madness, it underscores that no one here is entirely righteous or wholly evil. Ultimately, Metal Gear Solid invites us to reflect on what peace or freedom really mean in a world built on hidden agendas and powerful weaponry. The ghosts of Shadow Moses linger not only in its abandoned corridors, but also in the moral quandaries that shape every decision its characters make. Long before Metal Gear Solid infiltrated the original PlayStation, its creator, Hideo Kojima, was laying the groundwork for a new kind of interactive experience. In 1987, Konami released the original Metal Gear on the MSX2 home computer, an unlikely platform for the start of a legendary franchise. Influenced by films like Escape from New York, Kojima introduced stealth action into a medium dominated by shoot-'em-ups, effectively testing whether players would enjoy a game that rewarded evasion over brute force. Back then, hardware limitations forced developers to be creative. Most games simply didn't have the resources for large-scale battles. Kojima harnessed these constraints, crafting a stealth system that made being spotted a disaster rather than an invitation to engage. This innovation set the tone for what would later become Metal Gear Solid's defining feature. Encouraged by the cult success of the original, Kojima launched Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake in 1990, further refining his stealth mechanics and story ambitions. This sequel introduced a more elaborate plot, better enemy AI, and early hints of the espionage drama Kojima was eager to explore. However, these MSX2 titles found only niche audiences outside Japan. Despite the franchise's low international profile, Kojima's dream of a fully cinematic, large-scale stealth experience never wavered. He continued scribbling story outlines and imagining advanced technology that would test a player's strategic thinking rather than reflexes. At one point, Kojima considered bringing his vision to the 3DO interactive multiplayer, an ambitious but ultimately ill-fated platform. The plan was to harness the 3DO's then impressive multimedia capabilities for cinematic storytelling. But as market conditions changed and the 3DO's future dimmed, Kojima and Konami pivoted toward Sony's PlayStation. This shift proved crucial. The PlayStation's growing dominance in more robust hardware opened possibilities for advanced 3D environments, voice acting, and the cinematic touches Kojima craved. Development for what would become Metal Gear Solid began in 1995, though it soon faced a major setback, the Great Hanshin earthquake, which caused catastrophic damage in Japan and disrupted Konami's production schedule. Despite this adversity, Kojima's team persevered, determined to push forward with their groundbreaking stealth project. They dove deep into research, studying SWAT team tactics, real-world military technology, and psychological warfare methods. They also explored film techniques, striving to ensure every cutscene oozed cinematic flair. From humble 2D origins on a lesser-known home computer to flirtations with experimental hardware and a dev team tested by both technological and natural challenges, the Metal Gear franchise had anything but a straightforward path. Yet each hurdle sharpened its core ideas, refining stealth gameplay and narrative depth until they were ready to burst onto the PlayStation scene in 1998. That's how we arrived at Metal Gear Solid, the culmination of Kojima's long-held dream to merge the tension of spy cinema with interactive storytelling. By the time Snake stepped onto Shadow Moses, a decade of innovation, rooted in technical constraints, creative experimentation, and sheer determination, had laid a formidable groundwork for one of gaming's most influential titles. The raw numbers around Metal Gear Solid speak to its astounding success. Released in 1998, it sold over 6 million copies globally on the original PlayStation, an extraordinary feat for that era. Konami invested an unprecedented $8 million into marketing the game in Japan alone, showcasing the publisher's confidence in Hideo Kojima's cinematic vision. Within months of launch, the game dominated sales charts in North America, Europe, and Japan. Critics raved. It swiftly racked up Game of the Year titles from numerous outlets, including prestigious gaming publications that praised everything from its stealth gameplay to its storyline and voice acting. Long after its release, Metal Gear Solid continued to dominate retrospective rankings. IGN, for instance, placed it at number 19 in their top 100 games of all time, praising its blend of interactive storytelling and stealth mechanics. In 2012, Time included it in their list of the best video games ever made, highlighting the memorable boss battles and groundbreaking cinematic approach. Even modern polls and fan-led votings routinely celebrate Metal Gear Solid among the top 10 PlayStation titles, ensuring it remains a cornerstone of discussions about gaming history.
The first person whose mind I dove into was my father's. I saw nothing but disgust and hatred for me in his heart. My mother died in childbirth, and he despised me for it. I thought my father was going to kill me.
Few moments in gaming have been as enduring as the Psycho Mantis battle. In a 2008 poll conducted by Game Informer, over 70% of respondents singled out this fourth wall-breaking encounter as one of the most memorable boss fights in any video game. Not just on the PlayStation, publications have continually cited it for its inventive gameplay twist, where players had to switch controller ports to outsmart Mantis's telepathic abilities. This single encounter encapsulated the essence of Metal Gear Solid, a willingness to experiment with the player's sense of immersion, blending psychological tension with mechanical innovation. It's rare to see a single title weave itself so deeply into the fabric of both gaming culture and pop culture at large. Yet Metal Gear Solid managed exactly that. The success of this 1998 release not only propelled Hideo Kojima into the spotlight, but also convinced many skeptics that video games could rival film and television in storytelling ambition. From the tense corridors of Shadow Moses to the twisted psychological warfare of the boss fights, the game's legacy continues to inspire developers, players, and critics. In the late 1990s, the notion of stealth in video games was often little more than a side mechanic. Metal Gear Solid changed that, making infiltration and evasion the core of the experience. Suddenly, players weren't just running and gunning. They were planning silent approaches, studying guard patterns, and living on the edge of discovery. By centering its gameplay around stealth, the developers created a gripping tension that made every step and every corner a potential risk. Gamers found themselves holding their breath, cautious about even the sound of footsteps on a metal walkway. The brilliance of Metal Gear Solid's stealth lies in the details. Noise management, guards respond to sound, run on grates or knock on walls, and they'll come investigating. Vision cones, the now iconic radar, showed exactly what enemies could see, turning each hallway into a tactical puzzle. Environmental clues, footprints in the snow or echoes in narrow passages, meant you could be betrayed by your surroundings if you weren't careful. Few games at the time had applied stealth so dynamically. It wasn't just an option to creep around, it was the entire foundation of the mission. One item became synonymous with this new style of play: the cardboard box. It's almost laughable, a plain shipping box sitting in the middle of a high-security base, but it perfectly encapsulates the game's blend of tension, humor, and innovation. This simple disguise showed how stealth could be both entertaining and nerve-wracking at once, encouraging players to think outside the conventional action game box, so to speak. The industry took note. Subsequent franchises, from Splinter Cell to Hitman, built upon many of the ideas first popularized in Metal Gear Solid. Spotting and evading enemies, once considered niche, became a core experience in some of gaming's most successful series. Even action-heavy titles began weaving in stealth sequences, capitalizing on the suspense and strategic depth they brought. What started on Shadow Moses Island quickly became a global trend. In the mid-1990s, Hideo Kojima had an audacious plan: fuse the tension of espionage cinema with the interactivity of a video game. At a time when most titles were still content with text boxes and minimal cutscenes, Kojima aimed to make players feel like they were part of a top-tier spy thriller. He had an ambitious narrative to tell, one that confronted genetic engineering, nuclear deterrence, and the human cost of war. Yet this vision wasn't without risks. Skeptics questioned whether gamers would sit through lengthy cutscenes or appreciate stealth-based gameplay. Konami, however, saw potential. They entrusted Kojima with the resources and freedom to craft a new experience, one that broke free from industry norms. Developing for the original PlayStation in the late 90s was no small feat. Its hardware constraints limited polygon counts and memory, forcing the team to find creative solutions. While other games favored open environments or simplistic visuals, Metal Gear Solid used tightly constructed spaces, pre-scripted camera angles, and clever lighting tricks to evoke a sense of claustrophobia and cinematic flair. This design approach wasn't just an aesthetic choice, it was a necessity. Every detail, from Snake's footsteps echoing on metal floors to the flicker of overhead lights, was meticulously planned to create immersion despite technical limitations. To ground the game's espionage, feel, and authenticity, Kojima's team consulted military experts and studied modern warfare techniques. They visited active training sites, observing how soldiers communicated under pressure. Motasada Mori, a military advisor, provided hands-on knowledge about firearms, infiltration tactics, and the psychological toll of combat. This commitment to realism meant even small details, like bullet casing ejection and guard patrol patterns, received painstaking attention, ensuring the finished product felt grounded no matter how futuristic its narrative might be. By weaving cinematic drama with stealth innovation, Kojima and his team created more than just a hit game. They crafted a cultural phenomenon. Future titles in the series would build on its foundation, exploring deeper themes and more advanced mechanics. But Metal Gear Solid would always be remembered as the spark that ignited the franchise's legendary status. A perfect storm of vision, risk-taking, and technical ingenuity shaped Metal Gear Solid into a defining moment for gaming. It set a precedent for storytelling and immersion that would influence an entire generation of developers and forever change how players experience action, stealth, and narrative. The success of Metal Gear Solid didn't just launch a single title into stardom, it sparked an entire saga spanning decades. Although the direct sequels would evolve the storyline in intricate ways, the original's DNA flowed through them all. Each new entry, whether it was set in the Cold War era, the near future, or postmodern timelines, owed its narrative complexity and stealth roots to that 1998 breakthrough. To date, the Metal Gear series has sold over 58 million units worldwide. These figures underscore the franchise's enduring appeal and validate Hideo Kojima's unique blend of storytelling, stealth mechanics, and cinematic ambition. Fans worldwide have embraced not only Solid Snake, but also the broader Metal Gear universe, ranging from Big Boss's Cold War missions to the futuristic battles of Raiden.
Snake, you know who that is?
You're kidding, right? It's Mario.
Mario made his first appearance in 1981, and since then, he's become a worldwide phenomenon. There's probably not a single person who doesn't know Mario. He's that famous.
Good thing I survived long enough to meet him on the field of battle, huh?
This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance, Snake. Now get out there and show him what you're made of. No regrets.
Got it.
Perhaps one of the most striking signs of Metal Gear's cultural reach is Solid Snake's cameo in Super Smash Bros., an iconic fighting series typically featuring Nintendo characters. When Snake stepped onto that crossover stage, an entirely new generation discovered his stoic demeanor, stealthy moves, and trademark cardboard box. This crossover not only boosted Snake's popularity, but also served as a testament to how Metal Gear Solid had transcended the boundaries of its own universe, mingling comfortably with pop culture's biggest icons. Like any influential saga, Metal Gear Solid cultivated a devoted fandom that consumes every piece of content, official or otherwise. Fans produce hours of lore analysis, fan art, cosplay, and machinima, often collaborating online to dissect unexplained plot points or speculate on future installments. These shared passion projects foster a tight-knit community. Meetups and conventions feature panels dedicated solely to Metal Gear, where fans and voice actors reunite to celebrate the franchise's enduring creativity. The slightest hint of new developments, such as a rumored remake or a surprise cameo, ignites excitement across forums and social media. Decades after its launch, Metal Gear Solid continues to capture imaginations. Whether it's nostalgic veterans reminiscing about their first mission on Shadow Moses, or newcomers discovering Snake's saga through modern re-releases, the series has proven its capacity to endure. At its core lies a blend of cinematic storytelling, bold thematic exploration, and intricate gameplay, a combination that still sets it apart. Every rumor, every debate, every piece of fan-created content adds another stitch to the rich tapestry that is Metal Gear Solid. It's a testament to how a single game can evolve into a phenomenon, one whose influence knows no boundaries and whose legacy remains unbreakable.
Each morning I'd wake up and find a few more of my family or friends dead beside me. I'd stare at the morning sun and pray to make it through the day. The governments of the world turned a blind eye to our misery. But then, he appeared. My hero. Saladin. He took me away from all that.
Saladin? You mean Big Boss?
I became a sniper. Hidden. Watching everything through a rifle's scope. Now I could see war. Not from inside, but from the outside. As an observer. I watched the brutality, the stupidity of mankind through the scope of my rifle. I joined this group of revolutionaries to take my revenge on the world.
From the chilling corridors of Shadow Moses to the hearts and minds of players everywhere, Metal Gear Solid isn't merely a tale of covert espionage. It's an immersive drama that forces us to confront three fundamental dilemmas. Time and again, these themes rear their heads, challenging both Solid Snake and us as onlookers. The question of genetic fate runs like a fault line through the narrative. Solid Snake believes he's just a soldier, a man forged by training and hardship. But the revelation that he and Liquid Snake are byproducts of a cloning experiment shatters that belief. Are they destined to become what their genes dictate? Or can they carve a path that defies their biological design? This dilemma resurfaces throughout the mission. Every confrontation with Liquid or Gray Fox seems to whisper, is Snake truly in control of his destiny? The story doesn't hand us a tidy answer, leaving each of us to wonder if we, too, are more than the sum of our inherited traits. Another dilemma grips every corner of Shadow Moses, the risk of nuclear deterrence. Metal Gear X stands as a symbol of unstoppable firepower, capable of launching nuclear missiles from anywhere on Earth. Foxhound's threat to unleash Rex reveals the precarious balance of world powers. Is stability only maintained by the fear of mutual annihilation? Or does the existence of such a weapon simply edge us closer to disaster? As Snake unravels the deeper conspiracies, the futility of peace through nuclear strength looms larger. Each time a guard's footsteps echo in a corridor stocked with missiles, it reminds us how easily a single spark can trigger global catastrophe.
I always dreamed of becoming a soldier. But I was wrong. It wasn't really my dream. My father, he was killed in action when I was younger.
You wanted to follow in your father's footsteps?
Not really. I thought that if I became a soldier, I could understand him better.
So are you a soldier yet?
I thought I was until today, but now I understand. The truth is, I was just afraid of looking at myself, afraid of having to make my own decisions in life. But I'm not gonna lie to myself anymore. It's time I took a long, hard look at myself. I want to know who I am, what I'm capable of. I want to know why I've lived the way I've lived until now. I want to know.
Take a good look. You won't get another chance for a while. You should wash your face, too, while you're at it.
Yeah.
This isn't a training exercise. Our lives are riding on this. There are no heroes or heroines. If you lose, you're worm food.
Yet the most personal and harrowing dilemma is war's human cost. Behind every weapon, every genetic experiment, there are people, frightened, hopeful, damaged. Metal Gear Solid devotes scene after scene to showing us this toll. Meryl Silverberg, a rookie soldier caught in a terrorist siege, clings to her ideals while enduring heartbreak. Otacon, once naive about the consequences of his inventions, spirals into guilt when he realizes the horrors he's unleashed. In these moments, the game sheds its camouflage of slick stealth and cinematic flair, revealing raw human vulnerability. War isn't a faceless skirmish. It's a web of relationships, regrets, and traumas, each carried by individuals who never truly escaped the battlefield.
Snake, there's something I've really got to ask you. It's why I followed you up this far. Have you ever loved someone?
That's what you came to ask?
No, I mean, I was wondering if even soldiers fall in love.
What are you trying to say?
I want to ask you, do you think love can bloom, even on a battlefield?
Yeah, I do. I think at any time, any place, people can fall in love with each other. But if you love someone, you have to be able to protect them.
I think so too.
Throughout the mission, Snake, and by extension, the audience, can't escape these three dilemmas. Genetic fate surfaces each time Liquid taunts him about their shared DNA. Nuclear deterrence looms in every locked room stocked with warheads. War's human cost bleeds through every conversation with Meryl, Otacon, and the dying members of Foxhound. These moments serve as constant reminders that behind every bullet or scientific breakthrough lies an individual caught in a storm of consequences. In the end, Metal Gear Solid resonates because it forces us to confront these dilemmas directly. We watch Snake wrestle with truths about his own existence, question the danger of unstoppable armaments, and bear witness to the wounds war inflicts upon the human soul. This is more than a stealth game. It's a cinematic tapestry, one that challenges us to consider our own beliefs about destiny, conflict, and responsibility. And so, these three themes, genetic fate, nuclear deterrence, and war's human cost, remain the heartbeat of Metal Gear Solid. Even as the mission ends and the credits roll, their echoes remind us that the greatest battles aren't always fought on the battlefield, but within our own conscience. At first glance, Metal Gear Solid appears to be a high-stakes stealth thriller, complete with tense espionage missions, dramatic boss fights, and cinematic confrontations. But beneath those surface-level thrills lies an intricate tapestry of ideas. The game dares to confront the nature of identity, the heavy hand of fate, and the ethical quagmire of warfare. Even decades after its release, its cautionary notes on nuclear deterrence and genetic engineering remain disturbingly relevant, echoing real-world discussions about power, responsibility, and the precarious balance of peace. This layered storytelling is what elevates Metal Gear Solid beyond a mere action title. It challenges us to question our own assumptions about heroism and villainy, to weigh the costs of wielding devastating technology, and to recognize that destiny, whether shaped by genes or circumstance, can be bent by human will. The interplay of personal ambition, secret agendas, and moral complexity still resonates, proving that great narratives know no expiration date. True classics don't stay confined to one medium or one era. They transcend, enduring as cultural touchstones that inform future creations. Metal Gear Solid did exactly that. Through a perfect storm of innovative gameplay, cinematic storytelling, and philosophical depth, it redefined what games could achieve. Today it stands not only as a groundbreaking product of its time, but as a cultural artifact that continues to shape how we think about interactive entertainment. When you recall its suspenseful corridors or the haunting echoes of its characters' convictions, remember that Metal Gear Solid is far more than a relic of the past. It's a benchmark in entertainment history, a reminder that within every thrilling mission lie deeper truths waiting to be uncovered.
Yes, thank you. Goodbye, Mr. President.
This is Snake. If you've made it this far, you know the mission's not over yet. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this intel with your squad. Remember, it's not just about watching, it's about staying one step ahead. Snake out.